Hi folks, welcome back. We're still working on this tulip pin, okay, and the dimensions on this, real quick, is just a little over almost 3.5 inches long, and it was from a square block of 1 inch, and the cone was cut down to about 1/4 of an inch, and I trimmed it down from there. So you can, so it's 3.5 inches by 1 inch on the thick side of the cone, and 1/4 inch on the other side. Now I technically, not technically, but I wanted to be able to pick up my mom's tulip from the house, and I can't really take it because she'll know something's up with it if I decide to take it home. So I decided to do a little experiment. On our last video I had you trim this down, so this is what it should look like when you're down to this point. Meanwhile, it's a couple of days in between here, I decided to do a little one, okay, a little tulip. The same idea from the cone, a very short one. I always like the little one because it's easier probably to wear, and it's a little more complicated to carve it in a sense because of the size, but same idea. And I went ahead and painted it. Now this is my mom's favorite color, with the yellow tips and the reddish orangey look to the tulip, and I'm sure many of you would recognize this color on the tulips if you saw them. Alright, so we're going to keep going, and this is what we're going to create here. It won't be too much more on this to do. We did 2 videos so far, and there's probably another 1 or 2 after this one. So what we want to do is, on this one I just carved it all the way around. So what I might do is just go ahead and keep trimming this off a little bit more, and I'm just looking at it. See, it's still a little bit on the square side, so I'm going to try to round it up. And it's going to be a little bit that way anyway, because you're doing it out of a square. But we're just going to try to trim it up just a little further. Get a little bit more shape on it. It's always important to have your knife very, very sharp. Now I did go ahead and I sanded this, so you're going to have to sand this piece probably when we're done carving on this segment till we come, till we finish it, because the painting's kind of interesting. I'll explain that when we get to that point as well. So what I'm doing, and I'm really rounding this up a little bit more, so we're going to be rounding it up anyway, but I just want to round it off just a tad more and round this off so it's looking like more of an arch. You'll see what we're going to do here in a second here. That took a little time to get that cut out with a knife. You can use any hand gouges you have. The flat ones would work really well to get in there. But I'm trying to do a project that if you don't have those gouges, that you can simply do this at home. But you want to make sure your cuts are nice and clear, okay, and nice and clean, and that you go back and you clean everything out like you're supposed to. Alright, so we're going to just keep rounding this off. I could have done this offline, but I try to show you as much as I can online here or on the video. Okay, that's looking much better. I'm getting rid of those flat portions, but we're going to shape it up anyway when we put our lines on. Now the tulip, if we think about it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from over here. I'm going to arch it over that flat surface at the top and bring it down and around like so. Okay? I think that's how we'll have it. And this one, we have to think about this if that's going to look right. That'll be more of a... Alright, we're just going to do 2 petals. because it's like there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's more usually around, but for the effect that I want, I'm just going to come up and we're going to round that. Make this a little more rounded. Alright, so what we're going to do, we can take our knife and we're going to go not all the way to the bottom, but pretty close to the bottom here. And we're going to put a stop cut. And we're going to bring it right over the top. Down, we're going to follow it. Okay? And we're going to just chop that part out. Now, you can use the tip of your knife if you want. Alright? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it a little bit, because when you get to the end pieces, they're harder to carve. Just make sure you have a good sharp knife. Alright, and this should cut out pretty easily with that. See? You let it sit for a couple of seconds, you'd be able to cut that out. And we're going to go in just a little bit deeper. Alright, just like so. Because actually what you're going to do is you're going to round this petal off. But let's do the other side. So we know where this goes, right? And this is where we're going to put our pin. Alright. On this one, because it's so small, I'm going to put it halfway down. I'm going to find those pins that don't spin. I'll explain that towards the end here when we get those. I have to go to Michael's or something, see if I can find what I'm looking for tomorrow. I saw that the pins we wore at the show had the pin and had a little pin sticking out that would prevent you from turning, your pin from turning. I'm going to see what I can find there for you folks. And okay, perfect. Alright, so now we're going to round this one little edge off. Okay? Just going to round it off. And we're going to scoop that out a little bit because the tulips have a little bit of a dip. Okay? Now, on this one, on the outside, you can't really see it that well, but there's a little bit of a dip right in here. Usually in the center of the petal. And tulips are so delicate. They really are. They don't last real long, but like I said, I always get my mom a pair of them, or you know, a pot of them anyway, or fresh cut usually, but usually potted flowers are nicer. They last just a tad longer. So we're going to trim this down a little bit. Okay, so it looks like it's underneath. Okay, we're running out of time, but I'll come back and we'll continue on with this. Okay, we'll be right back.